Well, Evander, I know getting better game after game is kind of the goal in the playoffs, to continue building your game. If you think about where the team started this year and where your game sits right now, how impressed are you with this group and what you've been able to do here, where you're at?
Yeah, I think, in the playoffs, you want to build your game, but you got to have it really right away, and you got to have it often. So, you're not always going to have your A game every night, but you got to find ways to win. It's a results business in the postseason, and that's really at the end of the day all that matters. But we're happy with obviously where we're sitting in the series. We want to come out and have an even better performance tomorrow night.
One of the things that you were working on right from the get-go was hanging on to leads, doing a better job with that lead. Last game, you go into the third period with that worst lead in hockey, a couple of goals, and it felt like you leaned into it as opposed to maybe hanging back. What do you think the difference was there that let you do that? It's almost like you learned the lesson.
Yeah, I mean, look, we understand what happened, even though we know it was on the penalty trouble in game one. But we want to be a team that's knowing that when we do get a lead, we're not going to let go of it. So, and then obviously coming off the second period where they spent a good majority of the time in our own zone, we wanted to have a good response. And Connor's goal, obviously, at the end of the second was huge, and we wanted to use that as some momentum, and we were able to do that.
We watched you grinding through last playoffs, trying to contribute, trying to be a factor. Clearly you were very hurt at the time. What does this mean to you to be back with another chance here at this time of year, when it means so much, and to be quite a bit healthier, I would presume?
Yeah, no, it's refreshing for me mentally. It's nice to be feeling good at this time of the year, and obviously when you go through what we went through as a group last time, what I went through individually, and losing in Game 7 and at the same time not being able to be a part of that Game 7 was difficult. You never know. I've been around long enough. You never know if you're ever going to get that chance again. And now we're knocking on the doorstep to have an opportunity like that. And we need to continue to play well. And obviously it's a bigger game tomorrow.
Has this series been less nasty or vitriolic than you expected it to be?
I don't know. I think, in a way, I look back at last year's series, after the first 3 games, I'd probably say this series is a little bit more physical with maybe just some of the guys that I didn't feel last year was, incredibly physical either against Dallas. I think this year there's probably a little bit more of that. I think we have more guys buying into that too as a group. And, whether a team is, trying to play that tough physical game or intimidating game, I think it doesn't matter to us. That's the game we want to play. That's the game we're going to play, no matter who the opponent is. And I think that's, something that's helping us and giving us an extra edge and a little bit of a difference than last year.
Last one, wanted to ask you about Steuart Skinner. Local product, right? He's from the area, grew up watching this team. Yeah. Yet in this market, probably the most talked about Oiler all season long, the ups and downs and the waves that he has to ride. Wasn't a great start for him, but he bounces back and doing what he's doing now. What are your observations about the way Stu handles being in this market, and how impressed are you with what he's been able to do bounce back wise?
Yeah, I think, goalie obviously is a very lonely position. It's an incredibly important position, and the magnifying glass, especially in a Canadian market, is always on the net. And he's a guy that, from being around him and obviously being in the room, he seems to handle it pretty well. It would be inhumane to say things probably don't bother him. They probably do, but I think clearly the way he processes it, he shakes it off pretty quickly and is able to bounce back. And, one thing about Stu is he has a lot of self-belief and a lot of confidence internally. And I think, when you have that true confidence, even when things aren't going well, you can get back in the net and seize that next opportunity, and he's done that.
He says he's able to shut out all the outside noise. Do you, or do you kind of revel in it?
Do I shut out the outside noise? I pay attention to the outside noise, but it really doesn't mean a whole lot to me. So, I always like to be in the know and be aware of what's going on, just so I can have good responses for you guys sometimes. But at the end of the day, the noise doesn't play on the ice. So Stu's doing a great job of performing, and we're going to need him to continue that.
Appreciate your time, Evander. Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan.